Tonight, suspended Labour MSP Colin Smith is facing charges over allegations a secret camera was placed in toilets inside the Scottish Parliament. Staff are offered counselling. Also tonight,
it's good news for train passengers. Fares are about to get a whole lot cheaper. I'll have more later on.
And in sport, after the Don's disappointment in Bucharest, Aberdeen find out which teams they'll face in the Europa Conference League. I'm Andrea Breimer. This is the STV News at 6, live from Aberdeen. Good evening. The suspended Labour MSP Colin Smith is facing charges over allegations that a secret camera was placed in toilets inside the Scottish Parliament. Holyrood's presiding officer Alison Johnson says Police Scotland have done a full sweep of all the toilets and no covert recording device has been found. Well, our political editor Colin Mackay is at the Scottish Parliament. Colin, what has been going on?
Well, last week we found out that Colin Smith had been arrested and charged with possession of indecent images, including images of children. Now he's facing further charges over allegations that a secret camera was placed in toilets inside the Scottish Parliament. Now, on Tuesday, this place was swarming with police officers, but at the end of every summer break, just before the MSPs come back, there's a big security sweep of the whole Parliament complex, so no one at the time thought anything of it. But this time, they were also checking the toilets for hidden cameras. Today, the presiding officer has written to all Parliament pass holders. She confirms that police checked all the Parliament toilets and that no covert recording devices were found, but she's stepping up future security sweeps. And last night, the Chief Executive of the Parliament wrote to pass holders with details of a confidential support helpline. It also says you will be aware of the serious criminal charges brought against Colin Smith MSP. With Police Scotland's investigation ongoing, the Scottish Parliamentary Corporate Body, that's the ruling group of MSPs, has deactivated his parliamentary security pass. Now, that has only happened once before, and it was in very, very different circumstances. So what it means is that the South of Scotland MSP can only get into this building if he's accompanied and escorted. As an MSP, he can't get into the Parliament on his own, although in theory he could take part and vote in the Parliament virtually, remotely. Mr Smith says that he's cooperating fully and that he refutes the allegations. He says that after his address was published, he felt he had to move away to protect his family. And he's asked for the privacy of his family, friends and himself to be respected. The Crown Office told me that so far no court date has been set.
All right, Colin, well, on to political matters. And the Greens, they've elected two new co-leaders.
They have. Gillian Mackay and Ross Greer are the new co-leaders of the Scottish Greens. They take over from Lorna Slater, who was very narrowly beaten in this contest, and Patrick Harvey, who's been co-leader for 17 years, since both the current co-leaders just elected today were still at school. So that's why they're describing this as a generational change in the party. But the turnout was really low. It's the lowest I've ever seen in any party's leadership contest. Only 950 Green members out of 7,500 bothered to vote for the new leadership team. Are you worried, though, if you can't persuade your own party members to vote in a leadership contest, how on earth are you going to persuade the public to vote for you at a Scottish Parliament election?
Internal elections and general elections are very different from each other, and we've got a very good platform to go forward and convince the electorate across the country that we are the party for them.
We have a serious challenge on our hands for everyone who believes in a fairer, greener Scotland. Reform are a party of snake oil salesmen and conmen, and we need to take on the kind of lies that they tell. It's not the fault of asylum seekers or trans people that so many other people are finding their lives really difficult right now. It's the fault of billionaires, of greedy landlords, of big polluting corporations. That's who the Scottish Greens will take on.
Now, the Greens were in government just over a year ago, and Ross Greer told me they could go into government again after the next election, but he couldn't see how they could go in with Labour if Labour were the biggest party. He said they could only go in with the SNP if they could guarantee that they would be delivering green policies. Ross Greer also said he wants to make the Scottish Greens a fun party to be in, maybe bringing the party to party leadership.
Time will tell. Colin, many thanks. 3 teenage males have died in a single vehicle crash in the West Highlands. The accident involving a Ford Fiesta happened last night after 11 p.m. on the A830 between Mallaig and Arisaig. The 3 were declared dead at the scene. Investigations are continuing. Troubled Wood Group has agreed to a £216 million takeover by the Dubai-based company Sidara. It's the latest development following a tumultuous period for the Aberdeen-based organisation after its shares were suspended from the London Stock Exchange after financial results due last April were delayed. Well, Hayley's in the newsroom for us. Hayley, we have been following this story, so at last there does seem to be a deal on the table.
Yes, at last indeed, Andrea, and what has been really quite a long-running saga for Wood. It has had a few takeover attempts in recent years. Now, the news broke earlier that talks between it and Sidara, which had been going on for the past few months, had finally resulted in a sale. This time last year, Andrea, the Dubai Project Management Group had offered Wood just over £2 a share before it pulled its offer. Today, it got the company for 30p a share.
And what are they saying they're going to do with Wood?
Well, Sidara said that Wood will now become its new energy and materials division, adding that they intend to provide a $450 million injection into the company. The Aberdeen-based engineering firm employs around 35,000 people globally. Wood shares are currently suspended from the London Stock Exchange, as you said, Andrea, after its annual financial results were delayed in being presented back in April. The engineering firm has debts worth more than £1 billion, and it's been selling off parts of its operation over the past year to cut its debts. Now, we've heard from Ken Gilmartin this afternoon, the Chief Executive Officer for Wood. He said that today's announcement brought it a step closer to finalising a challenging chapter in its company's history. Andrea.
Many thanks for that, Hayley. Now, some welcome news for travellers. From Monday, taking the train will be a whole lot cheaper. Peak rail fares are set to be scrapped, meaning customers will pay the same price for their journey no matter what time of day they travel. Some prices for an anytime return on routes in the northeast have been almost halved. Well, Finlay is covering the story for us. He joins us now from Aberdeen railway station, and this isn't the first time, Finlay, that these rail fares have been scrapped.
Well, yes, Andrea, quite right. The scrapping of peak rail fares was piloted in Scotland for a year until last September. Ultimately, it ended due to its limited success. But it's been no secret that passengers have been calling for cheaper rail fares for some time now. Now, it's worth noting that during that pilot, passenger numbers actually increased by 6.8%, although the Scottish Government needed them to increase by 10% to subsidise the cost. Nonetheless, unions and opposition parties at Holyrood have continued to call for it. Now, rail travel in the UK is among the most expensive in Europe, but it's hoped that scrapping peak rail fares here in Scotland could go some way to changing that.
I think it'll be better for commuters. I'm retired, so I can travel any time. But for commuters, I think it'll be absolutely brilliant. So it'll really bring down the cost of their seasonal tickets.
Be much easier, yeah, because it's you're just thinking ahead, you know. So I was starting to take the bus instead of the train. I'd rather take the train. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think, as I said, I think it's good for the consumer. You know, it's good for people moving about the country, but I think it's potentially a bit bad for the network. You know, because obviously going to be taking in less money. But yeah, as a whole, probably benefits.
Yeah, it can only be good news, Finlay. Just how much do you think we could be saving?
Well, potentially lots. Now, as you said, as of Monday, no matter what time you travel, the price of your ticket should be the same. So currently the cost of an anytime return from Aberdeen to Inverness can be anywhere up to and around £72. As of Monday, that will be no more than around £39. Likewise, Aberdeen to Dundee currently is more than £50, or can be more than £50. As of Monday, that will be less than £40. And really these savings can be seen across the board. But ultimately this change is part of the government's push towards net zero, with rail travel contributing far fewer carbon emissions than journey by car. Now some might argue that peak fares are necessary to manage demand and increase revenue, but to be honest, Andrea, this really is one of those rare government policies that on the face of it seems to be universally liked.
A rare thing. A win-win anyway. Many thanks for that, Finlay. A 47-year-old man has been arrested following a disturbance in Dundee. Police were called to a property on Albany Terrace near Duddock Park around 1:20 this morning. The Scottish Fire and Rescue Service also sent 2 appliances to the scene. No injuries were reported and officers say their inquiries remain ongoing. An image of a man has been released after an incident took place on board a train to Aberdeen. The nature of the incident isn't known, but it is understood to have happened close to Dundee railway station between 2:30 p.m. and 6 p.m. on the 25th of April. The man pictured is believed to have left the train at Montrose. Detectives are appealing for him to get in touch with the British Transport Police. More than 2,000 people in distress have now been supported by a 24/7 crisis centre in Dundee. Hope Point, which became the first round-the-clock mental health service to open in the city in 2023, provides immediate help without the need for a referral. Its opening was sparked by a campaign from families who'd lost loved ones to suicide. This week, the centre celebrated its 2nd anniversary.
The fact that we're open 24/7 means that we're seeing people who maybe would be unable to get help any other times. We've got so many different ways that people can access our service. They can drop in, they can call, they can text, and I think it's good that we keep that option really open to people and we see people immediately. I think that's something that with the world being the way it is, with waiting lists and things like that for mental health support, it's really crucial that we got that right.
One individual that I'll carry with me, I think, for the rest of my life that I supported and was very, very heightened when they first came in. I had to adapt the methods of communication that I used because they weren't, in a way to talk to us verbally at that time. So we communicated on whiteboards and things, and knowing where they are now in their journey and how pivotal that was for that person and seeing where they are now, it's incredible.
Work to restore nearly 6 kilometres of waterways in Fife is just weeks away from completion. The Backburn project, just north of Markinch, aims to reverse man-made changes that have been made over time, bringing benefits to wildlife, biodiversity and local communities. The works focus on improvements at Coolden and Bilburnie Park.
We don't have much space to work in and we don't like to take up too much space to work in. We're working very systematically through essentially removing what was historic infrastructure that was in the watercourse and replacing that with something that's more nature-like. And then once that's complete, we're then rebuilding the paths, so the footpaths will be complete, landscaping everything, so by the time we leave it all looks nice and can be handed over.
We want to collaborate with other public sector organisations and partners to form projects that can protect the environment, enhance the green space with multiple benefits. This river has been historically altered. It's not working as a river naturally would. And for the benefit of wildlife and nature, for our changing climate, we want to build in resilience, and for benefits for local communities, for health and well-being. That's why we want to work in these areas.
Organisers of an annual cycling event in Angus say they have a record number of entrants from overseas. Ride the North will see around 2,000 cyclists take to the region's roads tomorrow, covering distances of up to 100 miles. Since its launch in 2011, the event has helped raise around £2.5 million for charities. This year's route will start and finish at Glamscastle.
This year we have more overseas visitors than I've ever had before on the event. That includes 50 who've coming from Stavanger in Norway. 2 gentlemen from Stavanger came last year. They had a great time. They showed some pictures of the event here in Angus last year to their friends back home, and before you know it, we've got 50 coming this time around.
Dairy farmers are warning that glass milk bottles could be consigned to history due to a controversial packaging tax, which they say is disastrous for business. The new levy will make producers pay the cost of recycling their packaging, and glass is facing some of the steepest fees.
The tax is so heavy on glass because it's entirely based on weight, and a 1 litre glass bottle is about 10 times the weight of a plastic equivalent. And so it ends up that if we were in plastic, the EPR levy would be of no consequence to us whatsoever.
Now, have you ever got a bit over enthusiastic watching your child play football? I am not saying anything. Well, now, parents are being urged to let them play. It's part of a new drive from the Scottish FA, which is hoping to improve parental behaviour on the touchline. Oliver Wright has more.
What was that out there? I've told you last week and the week before that, we can't have that out there.
This is the team talk that the Scottish FA wants to deliver to parents at children's football matches across the country.
Your attitude, your energy, guys, it needs to be better. It's kids playing football.
It's a problem parents at this youth football training session in Aberdeen are familiar with.
Some of them think the kids are playing for the World Cup or the Champions League. But I don't know if it's a Scottish culture. They want the kids to do well.
Yeah, they seem to forget that, you know, they're young children at the end of the day and they don't need to hear half the stuff that they do hear.
The campaign wants parents to allow coaches to coach, let the referee make the decisions, take a step back from the touchline, and most importantly, let the children play. Coaches say it's a problem clubs have already been trying to address, but that the campaign is welcome.
Parents and, to be honest, coaches as well, it can get a bit animated, whether it may be 4-a-side, 5-a-side or whatever, at any level it can get a bit animated, but I do think having that, like I said, having that boundaries in place just lets people know that, right, okay, we need to watch what we're doing, and at the end of the day it's all about the kids.
The drive goes hand in hand with the SFA's Let Them Ref campaign, aimed at allowing youth referees to develop without facing abuse. And it's hoped that by allowing football to be fun at grassroots level, it'll only have a positive impact on the quality of the senior game in the future.
When you're 5, you believe you can be anything. You believe you can score the winning goal in the World Cup for Scotland. Let's never take that away. So if we let them play and we make that positive environment, we never know. We might just get the next Ballon d'Or winner who's 5 years of age coming here, and we'll celebrate that.
As the youth football season gets underway for kids across the North East tomorrow, it's hoped supporters will heed the advice to allow young people to enjoy the beautiful game.
Shoot!
Oliver Wright, STV News.
Well, that takes us nicely now to sport. Stephanie's here. All we've been talking about in the newsroom today was the Aberdeen match. Was that a penalty last night?
The consensus in the newsroom today was no, it wasn't. So disappointing for Aberdeen, but there is the Europa Conference League.
Okay.
STV Sport, sponsored by the C.R. Smith Summer Sale.
Good evening. Shakhtar Donetsk, Sparta Prague and AEK Athens are among the teams Aberdeen will face in the Europa Conference League. The Dons were in today's draw after a 3-0 defeat to FCSB last night, saw Jimmy Tilline's side fail to qualify for the Europa League. Disappointment in Bucharest last night, but today all eyes were on Monaco for the Europa Conference League draw. And a guaranteed 6 games will see Aberdeen play at home to Ukrainian side Shakhtar Donetsk, French outfit Strasbourg and Armenian side Noah. Dons fans will be looking out their passports for trips to Sparta Prague, AEK Athens and AEK Larnaca in Cyprus. On the back of a 2-2 draw at Pataudry, Aberdeen looked comfortable in Bucharest's national arena. But just before half-time came a controversial game-changer. Alexander Jensen was judged to have handled the ball in the box. He was subsequently sent off for a second yellow card, and Darius Ilaru duly dispatched the resultant penalty. 2 further goals from Adrian Sutt and Ilaru again after the break saw FCSB qualify for the Europa League. 3-0 winners on the night, 5-2 on aggregate. Aberdeen consigned to the Conference League.
The penalty is a tough one, and it changed the dynamic of the game. And then we tried to find a way. We know we have to win, of course, so we tried to balance it more so it could give us a chance, an opportunity to get through. And then they scored 2 goals in 5 minutes, and then the game is over in one way. I think, again, the difference between us, these 2 games, when we did a mistake, they punished us really hard, and when they did a mistake, we couldn't really punish them in the moment. So we have to keep growing, and now we have to focus on the game on Sunday.
The Dons have no time to dwell on what might have been as they make a swift return to Premiership action, with Falkirk the visitors at Pittodrie on Sunday.
They always want to prove yourself in this moment, but we were not really ready. So now we still have time to improve our performance and get better results in the Conference League. So that's a good point in that way. But now again we have a really important game on Sunday at home against Falkirk.
Meanwhile, Tallinn has revealed that Shayden Morris is likely to seal a move away from Pittodrie after the winger was allowed to leave the Dons pre-match base in Bucharest for talks with his suitors, reportedly Luton. Now it's the game football fans in Dundee have been waiting for. Dundee and Dundee United contest Derby Day at Dens Park on Sunday, with both sides well aware the benefits the bragging rights in the city can bring. Well, with more, here's Fraser Nicholl.
Simon Murray knows how it feels to play in a Dundee derby for both sides of the street. Sunday will be a proud moment for the Dark Blues skipper as he leads them into battle against United, aiming to once again get the better of his former club.
Yeah, it's one of great, honour. I'll look back, on my career one day probably and think, playing in the Dundee Derby for both teams, I have done it. And it's for me, it's a great achievement, and to obviously be captain of the club and to be leading the boys out on Sunday is something that I'm really proud of. And I love these games. Both sets of fans are bringing everything to the game, and it's 90 minutes normally of sort of chaos, but I like that. I love it, and hopefully I've got another game that I can look back on with fond memories.
Lucas Stevenson is relishing the chance to play in another Dundee derby, having recently returned to Tannadice on loan from Liverpool.
When I came back up, it's the first game I looked for of when was the derby day, and obviously it's come around really quickly for me, which I was buzzing about. And yeah, I think you always manage to find that 10-20% extra in your game when you play against these type of games and these type of teams, because it's just a game that means so much to people. And remembering last year when you do lose the games, how that feels. I know for supporters it's horrific as well, but for the players it's no better. But then when you win them games, you kind of feel, invincible, you feel on top of the world.
With both managers looking for their first win of the league campaign, it's all to play for.
We know how important it is to City of Dundee, to our supporters. We've got some stability in the last couple of games with 2 positive results. We want to continue to build on that, and winning a derby, of course, gives your supporters and your club an enormous lift. So we're well aware of the importance of the game.
There may be 14 new faces in the United squad this season, but they've been made well aware of what Derby Day has in store.
The new guys are really looking forward to it because, these are the types of games that are the attraction of coming to Scotland. And we put a kind of presentation thing together to help with our recruitment strategy and just to show some of the new signings, the atmosphere at games like the Dundee Derby, and they were all pleasantly surprised at how well the supporters turned out and how intense and hostile the atmosphere can be.
Elsewhere in the Premiership tomorrow, Hearts visit Livingston while Motherwell host Kilmarnock. On Sunday, there's an Old Firm derby between Rangers and Celtic at Ibrox, while Hibs welcome St Mirren. Fraser Nicholl, STV Sport.
Well, in the Championship, Ross County are out to get their first win of the season at Dunfermline tomorrow. John Robertson leads the team following the departure of Don Cowie earlier this week. Elsewhere, St Johnstone aim to make it 4 wins in a row at home to Morton.
I'm asking them to go and play at their potential. That's all that Don asked them to do. We've got good players here. Have they played anywhere near their potential so far? No. Are they capable of? Yes. I see it in training for the last 2 months. I've seen it this week as well. There's been a reaction because they realise that what they've done didn't help Don Cowie and it didn't help Ross County Football Club. And right now, that's the most important thing: is we have to move on. We don't forget about them, but we move on and we have to prepare ourselves and get ourselves ready.
We are privileged to play, and if this is only pressure on our life to perform in front of our home fans, people expecting us, to win 4 games in a row, I'm the happiest man in the world.
Simo Valakari there. That's all from me for tonight. Some big games this weekend.
STV Sport, sponsored by the C.R. Smith Summer Sale.
Well, we turn our attention to the weather forecast now, and Sean is here, and actually I'm devastated because I've been told today that this is the last weekend of summer. Is that right?
Oh, do you not want to be burning your pumpkin candles yet?
Not yet, definitely not yet.
I've already burned my first one. But yes, meteorologically speaking, it is the last weekend of summer. But don't worry, astronomically speaking, you still get a good couple of weeks. So don't worry. Meteorologically, it is the end of the season, but that's just to keep our records tidy. As we go through this weekend, though, it might be feeling a bit autumnal, especially parts of the Western Isles and Skye. The risk of near gale force winds later tomorrow and Sunday. Let's look at your forecast.
Outbreaks of ancient sites will gradually settle into an evening of pizza plates al fresco. TUI sponsors STV Weather.
So it is going to be quite an unsettled weekend to come, especially for the west. As I was saying, the small isles, parts of the Western Isles, seeing some gales through the weekend. We don't need to worry about gales here, but given the fact it's a southerly, that does mean areas exposed along the Angus coast, likes of Carnoustie, Montrose, Arbroath, also around St Andrews and Crail, we're more exposed to that southerly, so it will be quite breezy at times through Saturday, and more especially on Sunday. Now, we've seen a few lively showers around today, especially across Perthshire, Stirlingshire, some pretty heavy downpours at times. The showers easing away, for most of us becoming dry with clear spells, temperatures down to lows of about 12 degrees. Now, we've got lots of rain coming tomorrow, but it doesn't get to us until a little bit later on. Look at that, 9, 10, 11 o'clock in the morning, dry, sunny to start the day. But look out west, we've got cloud coming in. There's the rain coming into Perthshire, probably about the middle of the afternoon, spreading its way across Angus later on. So it does look as if it will be quite a wet end to tomorrow, but at least dry with sunshine to start with. And temperatures 19 or 20 degrees. If you can't get out of the breeze, not feeling too bad before that rain, of course, comes in. On Sunday, I'm painting quite a showery picture for us. The heaviest, though, I expect will be across more western parts. You've got that strong southerly wind. So for the Dundee Derby on Sunday, it looks as if there will be some showers around. Have a look at the outlook. 18, 18, 18. Temperatures not changing much, still staying quite showery. And we're keeping an eye on the risk of some quite heavy and thundery showers coming through on Wednesday. Bye-bye.
TUI sponsors STV Weather.
Looks like you're going to need your brolly then if you're out and about this weekend. That's where we'll have to leave it from the whole team here. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.